everyone.
Hi.
Name is Ruth Fearnow. I am a student of A Course in Miracles. I attend here, and I'm also a therapist for a living. And Lois, thank you. We didn't coordinate that at all, but that song is exactly what I'm going to be talking about. It was a beautiful set of affirmations, and a lot of them were very well done. So I'll explain that a little bit. But first, I wanted to go to what the theme of the month is. So this month is about, and we have it on the bulletins, about being enough. Do you remember that affirmation?
Yes.
I rise up and reclaim my identity as
Enough.
yes, and a sacred being. So that was the quote. So I rise up and reclaim my identity as a sacred being. So when I was thinking about that, I went back to the unity principles. Principle number 1 was also in our bulletin, and that is essentially God is all that there is.
Yes, exactly.
God is everywhere, and God is essentially good. Okay, so number 1, God is everything, and God is good. Number 2, principle number 2, we are one with God. We are a creation of God, which means we are created in God's image. So we are creative, we are sacred beings. So if God is everywhere, God is good, and we are one with God, then it makes sense for us to rise up and reclaim that. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So what next? Are we done? Do we get it?
Yeah.
What's next? Well, luckily there's principle number 3. Okay, so principle number 3 says we are co-creators with God. We create. We actually co-create our experience here. So, great. I like this. We're doing good so far, and I want to know how. So one thing that's really cool when I'm thinking about this, if I were teaching it from scratch, there'd be a lot to cover. But you guys have a lot of this down already, so my work's pretty easy, luckily. You already know about meditation, affirmations, ways to bring more of your mind active into letting those ideas sink in more deeply. And so what I'd like to do is share just 2 more tools in how we co-create our experience. So tool number 1, you're going to have to wait till next week. That's 12:30 at Unity next week. And that's something that I call emotional mindfulness. You know, we may believe all these beautiful, wonderful things and we want to step toward that positive thing. But have you ever had like something just block you? Like, no, I should feel grateful and happy and beautiful, but wall. So that's next week. Sorry, that's cliffhanger. But this week is on the same theme, and this week I want to talk about affirmations a little bit. So we've all heard of affirmations. We've used them a lot. We used Lois sang a beautiful song of affirmations just for me. She didn't even know it. And so today. This idea of co-creating, a lot of people believe this is the same as the law of attraction, and the law of attraction tends to talk about it in certain ways. And you know, I want to attract things in my life, so you've heard I want to attract love, abundance, right? So abundance of love, abundance of wealth, good experiences, comfort, really. We want comfort. We want to attract these things. And I've read a good bit on the law of attraction. And I have a little bit of beef with it. Don't throw me out. Don't just give me a minute. I have a little bit of beef with it. And it's probably more in how it's applied, honestly. Because in our society, we're not used to going deep. We don't want to feel the feelings. We want to logic the feelings. And that works sometimes. But part of the logic tends to be, well, I don't want to look at the ugly stuff. So I'll give you an example. I was running a therapy group, and the people in the group had individual therapists. So I'm checking in with everyone in the group, and I say, okay, welcome to the group, let's check in, what's going on? And one of my clients, it wasn't Susan, but one of my clients said, oh, I'm doing good, so I'm a therapist. She gave me a list of affirmations. I said, oh, great, I love affirmations. What are one of your favorite ones? So she takes her paper and she looks down, and it says, everything is getting better every day. And in my head, I went, outside, I said, keep a straight face, keep a straight face. Don't judge her affirmations, keep a straight face. No, let's talk about affirmations today. That was my group. And I'm curious, can anyone pick up on why that bugged me? Anyone? This is going to be interactive a little bit. Huh?
It's so generic.
It's generic. Okay, why else? Everything is getting better every day.
It's already true.
It's whoa, whoa, where, who did it? Who did it?
Thank you, over here.
Not true.
Thank you. Gold star to the lady in back. Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So everything is getting better every day. And in the back of your mind, when you're trying to give yourself an affirmation, in the back of your mind says, no. Everything's getting better every day. Oh God. No. It's okay. Everything's getting better. It's getting better. You know, like when stuff happens, it doesn't work. It doesn't work when your mind is like, no, everything's getting better every day. But I just lost my job. But no, it's getting better. It's getting better. What happens, and I know we're being very funny with it, but what happens? What happens when that person's mom dies? What happens when something real comes up? And they've been building their affirmations on a house of cards that says everything's getting better. If I can just see the good, everything's getting better. And they're not looking at the stuff that genuinely bothers them. And when something comes in their face, it's done. What do you do?
Spiral down.
Because everything that you've been building, all your affirmations, you couldn't, it didn't work. So it's not true necessarily. Okay, because I don't know if you guys have been out there in the world, but it's not all great. I don't know if any of you watch the news. We've got some issues. And so when you say, no, everything's really great, it doesn't work. So what can we do? My other issue with that affirmation is that it focuses on external circumstances. Okay? Everything's getting better, and so I can be okay. And so I wanted to share with you how to get around that, but just to let that one sink in a little bit, that House of Cards thing, it's like that old song. I was in church and we had this song. I know you all wanted me to sing, so I'm going to sing. How's it go? The foolish man built his house upon the sand. You guys know this one?
Yeah.
The foolish man built his, and what happens? And the rain came tumbling down. Yeah, exactly. So, how do we make a better affirmation? It can't be based on the circumstances because those are out of our control. And honestly, if you want to reclaim your identity as a sacred being, what does that have to do with out there? That's in here. That's where you need to do the work. So an affirmation that will actually transform your mind will acknowledge that stuff is going to be difficult. You're going to have a hard time sometimes. So, an affirmation that's more powerful. How about when things are difficult, I know how to bounce back. I can bounce back. When things are tough, I can bounce back. Repeat that to yourself every day. And since we deal with meditation and these quieting inside your mind practices, you can take something like that and sit with it for a moment. I'm a really big fan of using a little bit of, actually when you use meditation on an idea, it's really called contemplation in Buddhist thought, or in Catholicism would be contemplative prayer, but it's where you take the idea and you sit with it. And I would say even sit with it more deeply. Notice how it feels when you connect with it. Notice what comes up, what you think when you connect with. When things happen, I know how to bounce back. I'm strong enough to bounce back. And you may notice in that quiet ways in the past that you have bounced back. You may notice the strengths that you have. I can call out to people. I know that at the end of these storms that I can do that. Why? Did you have your first bad day when you were 34? 54? You've done this before. So when I go through something, I can bounce back. That is an affirmation that your mind believes. It has to. You can't have the, I love specifically that you're in the back, because it's in the back of your mind where you're like, nah, that ain't true, right? It's literally in the back. So your mind has to resonate with it. So one thing you should do is it has to do with your power, and that's something that can stick. Because that is true. You can look back and say, it's tough, I didn't want to have to deal with it, but I did bounce back. That's the kind of affirmation. Something else I want to share about affirmations that help them is they shouldn't be black and white. So everything is getting better. It's just good. Did you guys see that old SNL with the guy in the mirror? He's like, I'm smart, I'm good looking, and gosh darn it, people like me.
And he's a U.S. Senator.
Okay, let me ask you something. Did that guy believe his affirmation? He was fighting so hard, poor thing. Great character. So it was very black and white. One thing you can do with affirmations is maybe you don't believe you're that strong. Maybe you don't believe you're that resilient. But maybe you've seen it a little bit, right? So what you can do is, one thing I'll ask clients is, okay, how much do you believe this? Give me a percentage. 40%. So I believe I can bounce back 40%. Okay, so there's enough there to stick with it. If they say 0 or 5%, I'm like, let's think of another affirmation. Because they're not going to connect to it. They're going to have the voice in the back of their mind saying it's not true. So if you're like, yeah, I do bounce back, and then sit with that, and then that 40% grows when you spend time with it, and that you repeat, and then you actually do shift from the ugly stuff in your mind to the part that believes it. That's how you shift. That's how you build the positive. That's why when you're singing your song, what was it saying at the end? Can you give me some of the lyrics? More and more. You were saying more and more.
More and more.
In the lyrics, I swear I heard more and more and then something positive. Darn.
If I could sing it, give me a line, I'll sing it.
Give her a note, give her a note.
And I'm stronger every day, I'm kinder, is that what you want?
Yeah.
And I'm grateful.
Yeah,
Grateful
so
every day.
yeah, there was part of that, I swear I heard the phrase more and more, and I latched onto that because another way that you can do affirmations, okay, can anyone give me a favorite affirmation? Anyone?
What?
I am not afraid.
I'm not afraid. Okay, so if you say I'm not afraid, now it may work for you sometimes until you're really, really afraid, then you might be like, that ain't true. Right? How about something like this? I'm not afraid. Okay, I can face things with courage. There may be some fear. It acknowledges that part of you is not in alignment with the co-creative sacred part because you're in fear, you know? But so to pretend it's not there, I think sometimes it's like a trick that your mind, part of it doesn't buy. But if you notice, you know what, there's some fear, but I can face this with courage. What do they say about courage? It's not about having no fear, it's about having fear and facing it anyway, right? So if you're like, I can face this with courage, then you can tell yourself that, but you can also, there might even be that depending on how much someone believes that or not, might be, oh, but I'm not really doing a great job. So what you can say is, I'm learning to be more courageous in hard situations. More and more, I can face things with courage. So I love those two phrases in affirmations. More and more, I'm seeing my resilience. More and more, I'm seeing beauty in the world. I'm learning to trust in my own strength. You guys see how this is building. So now it's more and more, it was 40, now it's 60%. Great. More and more I can see it. So we're not saying it's 100%. We're not saying, I got this, and part of your mind is saying, no. We're saying, you know what? I'm not afraid. Sometimes that's true, but when I am, I can face stuff with courage. And I'm learning, and I see the ways I'm doing it. So when we take out the circumstances, because those will challenge us, that's part of the deal here. But when we take those out and we point the affirmations at ourselves, and the ways that we can grow and become more and more in alignment with how we connect with God, with our creative powers, with the side of us that knows wisdom, knows courage, knows strength. When we do that, we are truly reclaiming our identity as co-creators and sacred beings. So, thank you.